Welcome to the webinar on understanding challenging behaviors in children with autism. I'm glad you made it on a Sunday morning, and it's really challenging to attend a behavioral workshop on a Sunday morning. So there are a couple of things before we start the webinar. One is, in today's webinar, I'll be keeping the camera off because I want you to focus on what I'm going to share with you. I want you to take notes. I want you to understand what behaviors are, why they happen, how they happen, and how we can manage them. So I don't want you to get distracted with the surrounding here. And the other thing is, all the questions will be answered at the end of the session. I'll stay back as long as you want, and I'll try to answer all the questions to my level best. So let's start with the webinar. I'm going to put off the camera now. I hope you all are able to see the screen. And I hope all of you are able to hear me. Okay, so let's start. Now, challenging behavior is a topic very dear to my heart. In fact, the focus of our center and the residential facility I was associated with focused on children with severe challenging behaviors. Now, behaviors ranging from biting, pinching, you name it and we had it, eloping, throwing things, scratching, pinching others. We had all these behaviors. So, what is challenging behavior? Challenging behaviors can be defined as any behavior that causes a problem, like aggression, hitting, kicking, breaking things, punching walls, or disruptive behaviors like cursing, yelling, screaming, or repetitive behaviors like rocking, hand flapping, spinning. Anything that seems to be a problem in the process of learning is a challenging behavior. Now, what are challenging behaviors? Why do we need to address the challenging behaviors? Right now, here we can see a list of the challenging behaviors that we see are aggression, self-injurious behaviors, tantrums, disruptive behaviors, property destructions, non-compliance. So we need to address these challenging behaviors because they affect the quality of life, demoralizes families, keep children out of schools. Parents are compelled to keep children away from social gatherings, supermarkets, mall, public places because of their children's behavior of yelling, screaming, biting, pinching behaviors. Now, often children with autism feel bad after a bout of behavior meltdowns, but this is something that is out of control, and this destroys the quality of life. Now, why address challenging behaviors? We have had children with all sort of behaviors. You name it and we had it. There have been times when our older boys aged 24 plus would rip off their clothes in public, and we could not do anything about it but to make him stay at home. And many such incidences made me come up with a program called Effective Behavior Intervention Program for behavior management. Now, that's the program. And this is what we are going to talk about today. This program is easy to implement and practice at home, school, and therapy centers. It's one strategy at a time, and you will see how things will start to change for good. Now, all you need to do is believe in yourselves and believe in the approach. Now, we have to remember 3 basic principles in this program, right? The Effective Behavior Intervention Program is a vast topic, and since we have only limited time, I'm going to focus only on these three topics that we are uh, going to discuss, and these are the most helpful ones for families to implement at home. The big idea of effective behavior management is that the behavior serves a function or a purpose. This is the core idea. The second idea is to focus on prevention rather than reaction. Most of the times we react to a behavior, but we are going to learn how to prevent rather than reacting to a behavior. We are going to focus on what strategies we can think to prevent the behaviors, what to do after the behavior happens, because there is not much options after the behavior has happened. You as parents want to know what to do if my child is biting, or what do I do if my child is pulling hairs. So for long-term behavior correction, there are no much options after the behavior has happened. We can prevent it, or we know when the behavior is going to come, but we can hardly do anything after the behavior has occurred. So we need to focus on how to prevent the behavior from happening. And lastly, how to replace the behavior once we know the function. So we can replace the behavior with something that serves the same function or the purpose, right? So behavior serves a purpose. All behavior happen for a reason, and challenging behavior is no different. We always wonder why my child is behaving like this. So there is a reason for him to behave the way he's behaving. For instance, let's forget about challenging behaviors or disabilities. If someone is repeatedly engaging in a behavior, then they are doing it because it is getting reinforced, right? For example, at work, we do a lot of extra work, and if we get praised, we get bonuses, we get our perks, we are likely to do that more, isn't it? But in spite of going that extra mile, if you do not get recognition, if you do not get your rewards, then you are certainly not going to do that, and that behavior will start to decrease. So things that aren't getting reinforced just go away, and things that get reinforced keep on increasing, keep on occurring again and again, keep on happening again and again. So with challenging behaviors, if the behavior is happening more than once, that means it is getting reinforced. That is getting reinforced, and this behavior is working for the child, and they're getting what they need, right? So we have to remember that if the behavior is occurring again and again, then the behavior is getting reinforced, and it's just doing it's working for the child, right? So behaviors serves two purposes. What that means is that the function of the behavior is either to escape or avoid, or to obtain. So children engage in behaviors to escape demand, escape activities, to avoid people, avoid social gatherings, or sometimes due to some health issues like migraine or earache or body pain. They try to escape and avoid. And the other thing is they engage in behaviors to obtain or attend attention, or to get something, or to get an activity done. They engage in the behavior. So now let's see what escape and avoidance behavior is. As we can see, most of the behaviors are either to escape or avoid, and children on the spectrum want to avoid doing activities that typically developing adults do. For instance, children rip off their clothes every time you tell them to join in for an activity, right? They hit other kids or poke in their eyes because they want to stay alone. And children flop on the floor when they don't want to get inside the house, they don't want to get out of the car, they get engaged in such behaviors. Now remember, these behaviors are getting reinforced somewhere, and so they continue to happen. For instance, we had this 7-year-old little boy in our residential facility who would hold on to his pee. I know, the weirdest of all the behaviors. And whenever he wanted to escape an activity, he would pee on us in public. He had this behavior from home, and every time he peed, he was allowed to let go the activity. So one of the things about function of behavior is you think about what is happening after the behavior has happened, right? Let the behavior happen once, but do not avoid it. Think what has happened, right? And you must be wondering what we did with this boy. Why didn't we punish him, right? Now, one thing about timeouts or punishment is it gets reinforced. We think that, oh, I have punished my child and he's not going to repeat the behavior. But next moment, the behavior happens. We punish them again, the next moment, the behavior happens. So that means the behavior is getting reinforced with our children. So if a behavior continues to happen again and again, then that behavior is getting reinforced. Timeouts, punishments do reinforce behaviors. We feel they do not reinforce the behaviors, but in fact they do the reverse. They reinforce the behaviors. Now behaviors like self-scratching, head banging, biting, hair pulling happens when demand is put on our child. And since it's hard to see them this way, we most of the time let go or allow them to do it, and that's it. The behavior gets reinforced. So what are the behaviors to obtain? Behaviors often occur to obtain tangible items, right? For example, kids would scream, throw tantrums, and if for example, I had a bad day at work, I would give in for the behavior and it would just get reinforced. One of the classic example is, and I get a lot of parents saying this, that my child with autism quite often hits his sibling, right? So now when he hits the sibling, it's most likely that he gets a timeout or he gets told not to do the behavior again. But then by talking to him or giving him timeout, that behavior is getting reinforced. Even if it's a negative reinforcement, it is getting reinforced. There are some behaviors which are self-stimulatory, gives pleasure or helps in relaxing. For instance, flapping hands, spinning, stimming, rocking. These are self-regulatory behaviors and they get automatically reinforced. Okay, so why we need to address the function of the behavior. The function is what is reinforcing the behavior. We must at least try to first minimize the behavior. We must also teach our children a way to communicate, whether verbally or through visuals or through gestures, and we must teach them an appropriate way to communicate, that they have a need to get out of this interaction, that they have a need to get some attention, and lastly, maximize appropriate behavior. Now, how we can find out the function of the behavior? How do we find out what purpose the behavior is serving, right? Now think of what the child is getting out of this behavior. Just give, when you notice that the behavior has happened, see why it has happened and think what the child has got out of this behavior. Is it doing it because I'm asking him to do something, or is it trying to get out of something I'm asking him to do, or is he trying to get something? What triggers the behavior? For instance, does the behavior happen when a demand is put out on them, or when they are asked to do something, or asked to go somewhere, they do not want to go, is that when the behavior happens? There is a good chance the behavior is trying to serve the escape function. So look at what is triggering the behavior, and again, what's happening right after that. Because if there is any pattern to what's happening after the behavior, if same thing keeps happening again and again, then that behavior is definitely going to get reinforced, right? So let us find out what are the triggers, the pointers for the function. Some clues like, see if the behavior happens when you ask your child to do something, um, then it's probably to escape. Or if you are doing some work and the child is supposed to be working or doing something independently and he throws a behavior, then it's probably for attention, right? And quite often behavior triggers during transitions, that is moving from one activity to the other or moving from one place to the other. So it could be to escape. They don't want to leave what they are doing. I mean, no, none of us, even forget about disabilities, even we, if we are engaged, sorry, if we are engrossed in something that we really are enjoying doing, we don't want to leave it, right? So why just blame our children with children on the spectrum? Okay, and or simply it's the diagnosis that our children don't like change. So is it that the change is bothering them and triggering the behavior? So what are the principles of effective behavior intervention program? Is you understand the behavior or the purpose of the that triggers the behavior. So now that we have understood that behavior serves a function, let us focus on prevention and replacing the behavior with an appropriate behavior that serves the same function, right? I have heard families coming up to me and saying, oh, I know it always happens when he gets down from the car, or it always happens when I'm on call, when I'm talking to someone on phone, my child wants my attention. But do you see that there is a lot of effort and energy going into engaging in the behavior? I mean, if you look at typically developing children and our children with autism, you'll definitely see that the amount of effort that our children put in to get our attention, they're ready to go to any extent. I mean, to an extent where they are willing to cause self-injurious behavior. They're willing to bang their own head. They're willing to bite themselves. They're willing to fall on the floor. So the child is really struggling hard to get his message across. For instance, if a child does not want to get down from the car, he is putting in a lot of energy and trying really hard to communicate that he does not want to get down from the car, but not letting you open the door. So the way to this problem is to teach them alternate ways to communicate, right? So what's the step one? The thumb rule is, whenever you are telling your child not to engage in a behavior, teach him what he's supposed to do. That's teach replacement behavior, right? So whenever you're trying to get your child to not doing something, don't just teach them what not to do, teach them something else to do instead, right? For instance, you can't pull my hair or pinch me if you want to escape an activity, right? We had this little child who would pinch me every time he wanted a break. And so we collected all the data, and we realized that the child would pinch every time he needed a break. And so we taught him how to communicate using a break card. And we thought this was a great way for asking and replacing the behavior. And trust me, he stopped pinching for asking for a break, right? So there are ways where we can teach them replacement behaviors. Now, there are some of the things that the child is trying to say, like when he engages in a behavior, uh, the truth is that he may be trying to say no thank you, or maybe I need a break, I'm all done, I want to stay home, I need help, please pay attention to me, oh please go away, just leave me alone, I want that, and so on. Our kids most of the time are trying to communicate saying no, I need a break. However, they flop or pinch to try to communicate, and in the form of a behavior. And we need to teach them alternate ways to communicate. Now, just think for a minute. If our kids could communicate appropriately, what would they like to say? Yeah, right. It may be what they want to say, but it may not be what we want to hear, right? We as parents hardly would like to hear a no from our children, but have you just thought of this? What is the first word a typically developing child says? It's a no, isn't it? I mean, we never thought about this, but a typically developing child will always say no to everything. You tell him let's go out, he'll say no. You tell him you want this, no, unless and until his parents give him. So the first word that he says is a no. Now, initially, you don't stop them from saying no, and you do respect the no, but then eventually you teach them when they can say no and when they cannot say no. So they first learn the power of the word, and that's what we have to exactly do with our children. First, we have to give our children appropriate ways to get their needs met, and then teach them at times they can use them and at times they cannot, right? So we need to teach our children to attend ways to communicate. So how can we teach alternate ways to communicate? I'll give you an example is we had this young adult in our day center, quite tall, almost 6 feet 2 inches, heavy built. He had heavy build, and he had this behavior of tearing t-shirt. I mean, absolutely rip it off from the center. You can't even stitch it, and if you stitch it, it would look very odd. And all our staff members were hardly, starting from me, like 4'11" to 5'5", 5'6", and this guy was 6 feet 2 inches tall. Now, initially, his father used to replace the t-shirts, and he was very fond of wearing all branded t-shirts. I mean, you name it and he had it. Peter England, Adidas, Nike, and the most expensive of t-shirts he would wear. Obviously, because of his size also, you would get those slinky sport type t-shirts with these brands only. But then the frequency of the behavior increased from 2 t-shirts a day to almost 8-9 t-shirts a day. Now, his father then started to go to a local market to get his t-shirts. Now, we tried to figure out the function of the behavior, as this was happening both at school and at home. So what triggered the behavior? What's happening after the behavior? So we started taking notes on to what's happening after the behavior is over, and what's triggering the behavior. We observed that he would tear the t-shirt everywhere, in school, at home, in car, in park, in malls, wherever he went. So we collected the data and worked with him for a week, and there we go, his behavior was no more. Just a week. We worked only on one behavior though. um, and the behavior went off. It's been almost a year and a half and the behavior has not come up. It's as if it never existed, and now he's able to wear all his branded t-shirts as well. So we figured out that every time we put a demand, say do this, he would tear his t-shirt. So we then decided, let's not say anything to him, but keep all the work to be done on the table. And as soon as he finishes 3 activities, just 3 basic activities, for an adult to do a basic activity, it would just take, hardly minutes. But we did that, and he would finish 3 activities and he would get a break. And so we decided to introduce a work schedule and break cards, and within a week's time the behavior was gone. Now this boy was coming for 2 hours, and every hour we made him do only 3 activities. You must be wondering, oh, what a waste of time. But then we were not bothered to see how much productive work he was doing. But we made sure he understood the visuals. There is a decrease in the behavior, and that he is happy. And today, well, due to Corona, we are closed, but before the lockdown, he would work for 3 hours with just 2 10 minutes break. So I have had parents saying, my child does not let go the iPad, he does not want to come out, or he does not want to do an activity. Then in this situation, we have taught kids to say, 1 more minute please, and it's so nice to see them say that, ask for 1 more extra minute, and they just go on like 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes. And for non-verbal kids, we have visual cards and the first and then card, just to let them know that there is another great activity waiting for them. Now in the above situation, time timers also work great. I'll be showing you the picture in one of the slides. I have the picture of a time timer. I'll show you how it looks. So by telling them appropriate way to communicate, they are at least able to make their opinions heard. The other way to reduce the behavior is to teach them to ask for breaks. The break cards work great, and once they learn to use the break cards, they use them wisely. It's just like something we need. I mean, I have a stress, if I have a stressful day, I need a tea break or I need a coffee break. You can teach your child how many breaks he can take, but again, it's a good way to avoid the behavior at the first instance itself, right? So catch the child before he engages in the challenging behavior. If you can see the graph, the major meltdowns or the major behaviors just don't suddenly start off, but there is an initial warnings of, the child may start running from one corner of the room to the other corner of the room, or he'll start looking at you, start staring at you. So these are all the initial warnings where they're trying to say that, oh yes, if you don't listen to me, if you don't give me attention, if you don't address me now, I'm going to have a major meltdown, or I'm going to have a major behavior over there. So once our kids are able to use appropriate skills, reliably, like to ask for break, or 1 more minute, or I want more, wait, help. So start building up their tolerance for delay by slowly delaying their access to whatever they request, right? So we can always work on how wisely they can use these cards, but it's more important to teach them how to use these cards, how to encash them, right? For instance, if the child asks for a break, you can say, sure, you can have a break, but let's do 1 more letter. Just 1 letter, I mean, don't make him do a whole activity, but just, so it's a win-win situation for both of you. You are also making the child do, you're making him comply. At the same time, he is like, all right, if I'm going to get a break, I don't mind doing one more letter, right? Or if you're on phone and your child says, I want to talk to you, you can say something like, sure, but just give me a minute. Or show him a wait card, and then you can put a timer as to when Amma can attend you. So if your child is non-verbal, communication need not be verbal. They just need some way to communicate. So you can teach them signs, gestures, you can use visuals, you can use the AAC devices. There are a lot of different AAC devices available now. So you can use, there's another strategy that we use is the retractable keychains, the ones that expand. You can put it on your belt and you can just pull them, and it's a keychain, and that have it has got a spring type thing, and you can extend it and have visuals on it. So it's easy for the child to pull out a card and say, I need a break, or I need attention, I want help, right? So I hope you're all clear and I'm not going too fast, right? So teach them some of the calming techniques as well. Like we need to look where the challenging behavior usually happens. Do they happen at school or at park or at home? Once you know where the behavior happens, catch the child before he engages in the challenging behavior. Initially, you can use the graphs, as I said, but then once you are able to do this, immediately reinforce the appropriate communication every time at first, right? So that the behaviors just don't escalate. We don't want them to have behaviors, and for that there could be there are strategies. So there could be times when we can't give our children a break, or if they say, I want to go outside for a break and it's raining heavily. In such a situation, you can teach some coping strategies. Now here we have this sensory breaks, or you can give them choice boards or movement breaks. So teach some calming strategies like deep breathing, count till 10, squeeze hands, stretch your body, listen to music, jump 5 times, or you can bounce on the therapy ball, you can jump on the trampoline. So try to deal with one behavior at a time and try to systematically deal with the behavior, right? Now, one of my older boys, see, I've actually worked with early intervention and the older boys in the residential facility, and it's always amazing to see that the behaviors that occurred in the childhood, if not addressed at that time, they continue to be there in their adulthood as well. So one of our older students used to who used to stay in a residential facility along with his mother. Now she was a single mom, and so we said, okay, you can also stay along with your son. And because was verbal, but when in stress, he would either remove his clothes or demand to see his mother. And the moment he would see his mother, he would hit her on the forehead, and with his hand, and she would just take it. So, and he would hit almost 30-40 times, and you can imagine what the mother must be going. So so we taught him how to calm down through breathing techniques and simple stretching exercises. And so once Vikas learned this, he stopped both his behaviors of hitting his mom and getting stressed out. So suppose you are unable to replace the function of the behavior, that is the purpose of the behavior, still always teach your child something else to do instead, right? Teach them another way to tolerate frustration. Just don't let them do what they're doing, but teach them another way. Now you can teach to squeeze hands rather than biting, or punching a pillow or hug a pillow rather than hit or punch me or pinch me. Then you can teach them to use some techniques to ask for sensory break, right? These are great. Sensory breaks work great. And you can also use the choice board. You can give three choices. I mean, you need not give the whole. See, I've given you the some of the ideas that come to our mind, or some of the things that has worked in our center, but you can pick and choose. You can give only 2 options, you can give them 3 options, depending on how your child learns, right? So um, all you need to do is tell them to request for one activity at a time, not that they pull up all cards and say, I want all of these. No, only one card at a time. However, remember to teach calming techniques beforehand. I mean, it's not like, he's having a major meltdown and you're teaching him how to calm down, how to take a deep breath. No, don't do that. Do not do when the behavior is happening, so that they know what is supposed to be done. Right? So you can, if you want to teach them, take a deep breath, or let's count 10, you can introduce this when he's having a good time, or you can have like an exercise moment, and you can make him do, so he knows when there's a meltdown what he's supposed to do. He knows how to do deep breathing. He knows how to count 10, right? So I hope uh, I mean, like, it's not that these things will come overnight, but we have to really work on this. Now, there's something called a movement break. So I'll just pause the video. I'll first explain what a movement break is. So you can teach your child to ask for a movement break. Now, if you see this video, it's designed in a very small room. So you can design a movement map. Now, this child is doing the child is doing it in the video. You can do a similar one, and you can teach your child to take a movement break. The movement break is a good way to divert the mind and relieve the stress. So let's see the video. Right, so there he gets his movement break, and he's fine. He's forgotten what behavior he was doing, and he's gone back to his room. So now that you know the behavior, teaching them to do something else instead. We want to maximize reinforcement for appropriate behavior as much as we can, and minimize the reinforcement for the challenging behaviors, right? Now, research says if you stop reinforcing the behavior, it will go away. But at times it's really difficult not to reinforce the behavior, especially with the older kids. I can understand as parents, and if you have another child, it's kind of very, very difficult. Just imagine when your child grows bigger and continues the escaping behavior, how are you going to deal with it? How are you going to manage it? And trust me, it's not easy. It's not easy. And we think that my child is going to be a child. No, is someday going to be a young adult, and then a full-grown adult. And just imagine if those behaviors continue. It's really tough. It's really tough. So If the behavior has an escape function, try to reduce the possibility that the child will escape the demand by engaging in the behavior. And if the behavior has an attention function, try to minimize the amount of attention you give to the behavior, right? It's a simple formula. We have to try and convey this message to our children that this behavior will not get them what they want or need, but appropriate communication will, you know. So if they understand that throwing a tantrum is not going to get them what they want, but if they can come up and ask you in an appropriate manner as to, can I have a popsicle? It makes more sense, you know. It's the right way to ask for things. So our focus must be to prevent the behavior rather than to react. Now, there are some classic, all-time favorite tools of mine for prevention strategies and families to work at home with their children. So these are shared controls. Don't say no, say when. Prepare for transition, modifying aversive tasks or activities, and behavior momentum. So let's see one by one what are these and how we can implement them at home. Now, shared control. What does that mean? Shared control means picking our battles. You know, it's not a battle of Panipat, or it's not a battle with, it's not a war battle, but it's like some things are worth fighting, and there are a lot of things worth just letting go. I mean, if we start picking up even the smallest of thing, we would really not be able to work on the bigger picture with our children. So we have to choose our battles wisely. For instance, when you take your typically developing child for swimming, and when it's time to come out, your child says 2 more minutes, mommy, and you let him be there, right? I mean, you respect him saying that I need 2 more minutes. But if in the same situation, if our non-verbal child is there, and if you say, Rahul, come, let's go, he starts moving away from you in the pool. And what a typical mommy does, you start dragging him or pulling him out of the pool. You'll call 2 people to, pull him out, and then there is a full-blown behavior there. He starts rolling, he goes back in the pool, and then that's it. That probably could be his last day in the pool. So won't it be nice if he could also say 2 more minutes, mommy, using sign language, showing it with his fingers, or doing a gesture or through visuals? It would be great. Rahul can get extra 2 more minutes, isn't it? So choose your battles. I can understand that we need to work on this issue, that issue, and so on. But think on this. If you can work on other behaviors, then you can let go some behaviors which are not worth fighting, right? I mean, we all have behaviors, don't we? But then we know what are appropriate behaviors, what are inappropriate behaviors. We know where we can do these behaviors, and we know where we can not do these behaviors. Or suppose I have a behavior of nail biting, I won't do it in a board meeting, right? But it gives me pleasure. It could be it's a self-stimulatory behavior for me, and so I'm like, okay, fine, when I'm in my room I'll do it, isn't it? So choose your battles. The next one is offering choices. We all love to have options, isn't it? I mean, if you tell me that I give you 4 options, I'm like, wow, I have choices. But then many times our children, because they are non-verbal, they are not able to express themselves, we think that, oh, whatever I say, you have to do it, right? So, for instance, you want to make your child do some writing work. Great, isn't it? Wow, you're making him do some writing, but then he doesn't want to do writing. So how nice it would be if you can give him an option and offer him that If he wants, he can write with a red color pen or a blue color pen, or he can write with a crayon or a sketch pen. So there by offering choices, what you're doing is you're giving him an option. I mean, you're also telling him that we have to do writing, but then you can choose your colors. Or you want to take your child to the park, you can ask him, would you like to walk down to the park, or you would like to drive down to a park? Most of the time children love car drives, so why fight over there by dragging him on the road and making him walk and then take him to the park? By then it's over, because he's already he got the behavior. So would it be not nice to give him options? Now give them choices for work you want to get done, right? So it's a win-win situation for everybody. The other thing is, you can use this strategy during transition. Let your child carry his favorite toy to the work table. You're calling your child, come on, let's study, Rahul, let's do work, come to the study table, and he is like, no ways, I don't want to study. So what you can do is you can give him a soft toy and say, hey, come on, buddy, let's go. Let's go on the work table. Let's work. And you carry that toy along with Rahul. Rahul is just a child I've named for our webinar. So, hey, Rahul, come, let's go to the table. And it would be wonderful to have him come along, and this has worked wonders. I mean, we never had to drag any child to the study table. They would just come if we carry their favorite toy, and once he comes on the table, let him play with the toy for a few minutes before you start work. Otherwise, next time he'll say, oh, you got the toy and you're dragging me and then you're going to take it away. No, let him play with the toy. Put up the time timer, say 5 more minutes, you can play with the toy, and then we'll start. So that's a great way to bring them to the table. So and also teach your child how to allow negotiations, right? Teach children to ask for 1 more minute. You can slowly, once they get the concept of 1 more minute, you can add 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes, 4 more minutes. It doesn't matter that it needs to be exact. It could be a minute here and there, but then it's the power that you give to your child. And you can also teach them how to ask for help. And for non-verbal children, you can use visuals or gestures, right? So that's all about shared control. Let's see the next one. The next one is, don't say no, say when, right? Now, quite often I've heard parents say, no, you're not getting this. Or with me also, it sometimes happens, I mean, like, I'm not consciously talking, I would say no, but then I realize, and then I continue, no, but then you can get it if you help me with the work I'm doing, right? So don't say no, say when. Now, this is another very classic way to get tangible things done. For instance, if your child is asking for a chocolate, don't say no. That's usually what we do. We say, no, you're not getting a chocolate. It's dinner time. It's close to dinner time. You're not going to have a chocolate. And the dinner is gone for a toss. So if your child asks for a chocolate, don't say no, but tell him when he can get it. Now, simply start, you can use some simple ways to do this. Is when your child, if you're in the kitchen and your child says, I want a chocolate, you can say him, yeah, sure, lovely, I love chocolates too, but then can you help me with the plates? Can you lay the table? Because mama's hands are busy. Just lay the table and I'll give you the chocolate, right? So you can make your child do a very small chore before giving him a chocolate. So this way you're getting the child to do an activity before he gets the item. right? But you have to remember, you would say, yeah, we do the first and then, but this is what is first and then. But then again, we are not addressing it as first and then, right? So don't say do the work and then I will give you the chocolate. Just say, sure, you can have the chocolate, but first, can you please help me with the plates? It's more of a polite way, requesting our children to do work, right? It just makes, the words just make a lot of difference. So next time, try it, and it really, really works. It really works. Now, once the child learns how to ask for things, slowly move the tangible item on a visual schedule. So that's why I put the visual schedules here, um, which says activity, you do one activity, you do the second activity, then you get the special activity done. You can see it in the visuals. We haven't put it in the order, but it's like, the child does the morning group, and then he does the class job, and then he gets his special activity. So in a concrete way, show them when they can get it. Usually we tend to forget this, but it's very important. If it's there on the wall, they know when they're going to get it. If your child uses a schedule, you can show him when he can get it on the schedule. Give your child an avenue to get what he wants. They have the right to get what they want. It's only that when they can get it is the question. Now, suppose if your child says ice cream, we normally say, no, you don't get an ice cream now, and then there's a tantrum, rolling on the floor or biting or hair pulling and stuff. But if you say with a lot of enthusiasm, you need to have a lot of energy when you're handling children with special needs. So with a lot of energy, you say, ice cream, wow, sure, why not? We both can have an ice cream once we finish this work, right? So yeah, we are going to have the ice cream, but let's finish off the work that we were doing, and make sure you keep your promises. Many a times we forget to give them, thinking that, my child is non-verbal. We forget to give them the tangible item, and we break our promise, and that's where the trust is broken with our child. So avoid using the word no, and replace it with when they can get it, and make sure whenever you have promised, they do get the tangible item, right? So how you can prepare your child for a transition: give lots of visuals, give plenty of warnings, see, that's the one in white and black is a time timer. It's a great tool. It's a great tool, and you can just put up 5 minutes, and then when the 5 minutes are over, the red portion gets covered with the white one, and it works great. It really works great. Use visual timers, countdown visuals. Then there's another, that kitchen timer, that also works great. It has got a beep sound, so children really look forward for the sound. Some of them really love the way the numbers go, so they really focus on the numbers. So these are some of the great tools. Now, for instance, if your child is in middle of something, and you feel that, oh, well, I mean, you need to finish this, you can put up a timer. Now, if your child if your child says, I want to finish the work he's doing, you can just put up the timer and say, we are leaving in 5 minutes, we are leaving in 2 minutes. You can use a visual also, so they know that they need to hurry up to finish off the activities. But then you're even giving them time to transition. It's not that you're just dragging them or pulling them out of their chair and say, come on, let's go, because it just disturbs them a lot when you do things suddenly. So make it more concrete for your child. Remember, children with autism have a need for sameness. We say, oh, why do I have to give him the same thing again and again? But they definitely need things in the same way. So they do not like changes, and that's the diagnosis. So we really can't do much about it, but we can definitely help them to adapt and accept change by using tools like the time timer and the visuals, right? So give them enough time to prepare for change. Uh, and change doesn't happen overnight, right? So we really need to work on it. The other way to do is to provide distractors for the transition. For instance, I can give you an example is the child can carry his favorite toy for transition, and that toy is only for transition. Like if the child travels often in the car, but it's really difficult for him to uh, get inside the car, or from get inside the car from the school or from the home, then you can carry this toy um, that the child really likes, and once he sits in the car he can play with it, but when he gets down he has to leave the toy in the cars so that he can use it for the next transition. So you can also arrange for something good um, at the other end, that is when the child comes out of the center, or he's playing in the backyard and he doesn't want to come inside the house, he gets to play in the playground or the swing for 5 more extra minutes before he goes for the therapy. Or when he comes inside the house, he gets his iPad. He doesn't get the iPad in the backyard, but he gets it in the house. So that's really reinforcing for him to come inside the house, right? We don't have to drag them. So make sure that they have something that is more interesting at the other end of the activities. So that's all about preparing for transition. And this is a classic one now, modifying aversive tasks. So this is a big thing. Ask yourselves if the task or the activity is so aversive, so difficult for the child that he is willing to engage in a behavior to avoid the task. If so, why? Kids basically want to work and work hard. I mean, trust me, they are more hardworking than you and I are. In whatever limited work they do, if they learn it and they enjoy it, they put in their heart and soul to do it. And so what's wrong in the activity? Am I trying to make him do it? Am I forcing him to do it? Or try to find out what can be changed to make the task less aversive. For instance, you can ask yourselves questions like, is it too hard? Then let me make it easier. Is it too long? Is the activity too long? Let me make it shorter. Is it too difficult? Maybe let me give more support during the task to my child. So this way you can help him do the activity. Now the last approach is, oops, there's a video and I'll just pause it. I'll show you what this is. This is behavior momentum. I know many of you who have been through ABA know what behavioral momentum is, but it's a research-based approach that compliant behavior builds its own momentum. Now, for instance, if you can get your child in a compliant mode, then you are more likely to be compliant next time. He or she is more likely to be compliant next time. So the way you do it is more up with the quick, easy commands your child is likely to come up with. For instance, um, if your child refuses to get up, you can do something like this, like suppose, hey Rahul, touch your nose, good job, give me 5, great work, tap your nose, tap your head, awesome, stand up and let's go. So you build up that momentum and do it with lots of enthusiasm, and the child is likely to comply. right? So let's see the video how this father is trying to teach his daughter shapes. She's really struggling with shapes. So how he gets her into into the momentum to get the shapes out. So let's see the video. What shape? Yeah. What shape? Well, I don't know. So, yeah. That's your nose. Oh, good job. That's important. Oh, good job. That's good job, everybody. Oh, good job. And what shape is this? It's a what? Good job. That's your nose. Oh, good job. Oh, good job. That's your forehead. Good job. It is. Oh, good job. What shape? Good job. So do you see how nicely she does? She complies, and it works great. So we usually do the behavioral momentum during the feeding time, and we give children what they really enjoy, and then push through a item that they're not very happy with, and that's how we get our children into eating all type of food. So you can try that next time. And I think we are well on time, and so these are the 5 big ideas on prevention. uh, that is, share control, don't say no, say when they can get it, prepare them for transitions, modify aversive tasks, and the behavior momentum. And that's the 3 key ideas on effective behavior intervention program. That behavior serves a function, and focus on the prevention rather than the reaction, and replace the behavior with positive behavior which serves the same function. And with this, we come to the end of today's webinar. I hope you had a great learning experience. Thank you very much and have a great day.